to this week's movie night review. I almost said the wrong thing. I always do.
Yeah, midweek warm-up.
So,
good movies.
Our Thursday movie night review. This movie that we're reviewing is definitely not for little peoples.
Which is why they're not here.
So, we're reviewing John Wick Chapter 4. They do call it Chapter 4, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It is Chapter 4.
Okay. So, Isabella's 18.
Legally.
She went through and watched the previous films so that she could go through and watch
Most
this
of
movie
them.
in theaters.
I did not finish Chapter 3. I still
She
have
fell
not.
asleep.
No, it's my cell phone died and then I had to go to work.
She fell asleep.
You know, being an adult happened.
Unfortunately.
So,
Happens sometimes.
Occasionally.
take it away.
Okay, synopsis. John Wick is alive still. Ooh, that's not surprising. And he is in Tokyo trying to hide from the high table. But the overall goal is to get away from the high table by killing the high table.
Yeah.
Which,
Makes sense.
there are merits to that. Obviously, there are problems that we can assign to it, which we'll discuss later. But we'll ignore the moral issues for now and just say he's trying to do that. And by the end of the movie, he has kind of succeeded, kind of not. So,
It's iffy.
it's really a movie that is about action, which he's now been called the greatest action hero of all time. Which,
Keanu Reeves.
no, John Wick.
Okay.
Because John
Okay,
Wick
the character.
specifically.
Okay.
Because, to be perfectly blunt and honest, he doesn't talk.
Like at all.
He does have lines, so it's not like there aren't any. Like, this movie had 380 words left in the film for his entire speech. Many characters in action movies, that's their every 5 minutes talking. And that doesn't do well with action.
Because you've seen Rush Hour.
Yeah, there's a lot more broken English than that from Jackie Chan, but
Well, I just
To
mean
be fair, I mean,
his
Chris Tucker
co-star,
talks a lot.
Chris Tucker. But that's kind of a hallmark of the character as well, that he talks a lot. So anyway.
he's talking like 300 words a minute, so he talks a lot. But John Wick does not need to talk because the whole point is that he's getting his point across with his gun. And to an extent with nunchucks and so on.
well, and katana for a little bit.
Yeah. So, can I just kind of clarify? If you have not seen any of the John Wick movies and you're watching this video, the whole premise of the series is that John Wick was an assassin. They call him Baba Yaga. And he got out of the whole lifestyle because he wanted to get married. And then through a series of very unfortunate things, his wife passed away and he got drugged kind of back into this unwillingly.
Well, he purchased his escape and in the process built lots of debts that are called in later, which is what keeps him in the game after his wife dies of cancer.
Yeah. So,
It's very unfortunate and it's extremely sad in the first movie. Because it goes
Yes.
through the whole backstory.
yes. But the whole premise of the series is that he's an assassin. He is a gun for hire.
He
So-
is the best of the best. And you do not cross Baba Yaga at all.
Yes. And he can get anywhere. He can take out anyone. Basically, he's a legend. But if you don't like that kind of action movie, if you really have issues, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of murder in these stories.
Well, not so much murder, it's more
There's a lot of blood.
Combat.
It's very...
Combat.
Yes.
the body count is in the hundreds per movie,
Yes.
most of which was incurred by John Wick.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's just a preface. If you really are uncomfortable with those things or don't feel like it's something you want to watch, then
Steer clear.
steer clear, because that's pretty much the entire substance of the story. Is John Wick is awesome and he had this hurt and he's gonna make it right no matter how many people have to die.
But in the process, he also gets shot multiple times. He gets stabbed. He gets beaten. He gets in multiple car accidents. He gets thrown off buildings. He gets pushed off buildings. He gets hit by cars.
Motorcycles.
It's a long list of things that normally would kill you, but he's determined
Yeah.
And that's the whole point in this movie, is that he's determined to finish it.
Yeah.
He will not die until he has finished what he has set out to do.
Yeah.
He does.
So.
No spoilers.
Or at least he attempts
It's not
to.
really a spoiler anyway. Okay, so, good things about this movie. Bella.
There's so many. I can't pick just one.
Okay, one good thing about this movie is that early on in the movie there is a scene where he gets nunchucks inside the Osaka Continental. And the entire fight scene is not broken up into multiple takes. It's start to finish. They're doing the entire fight scene in a row. And so at the end of the fight scene, when John Wick is out of breath, it's because he actually is out of breath because he's been beating people for 18 minutes with nunchucks.
Yeah.
And so it's very impressive that he made it through the entire thing in one shot. Because that takes a lot of conditioning, much less not losing your weapon in that time period.
Yeah, I would have lost the nunchucks numerous times if I had attempted what he did.
So, one of the things I think is good, it always tries to show kind of the normal human side of, the gentle side of the good guys. Even though they're assassins, one guy has a daughter, and he's trying to make that relationship work. Another guy, he and his daughter work together, not necessarily as assassins, but in that world. And then, obviously, there's the...
She's concierge at the hotel.
Yeah, there's the tenderness that John Wick had with his wife and the dog in the first one, and that kind of...
Well, and his dog
drives
that
him.
he found at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
And
dog.
In his friends.
Well, there's also multiple times throughout this movie that he's asked to kill a specific person who he counts as a friend, and he's unwilling to do such, even though he has opportunities to.
Yeah. So there's this odd play of integrity and loyalty that you see in John Wick's character especially, but also in a few others throughout the series, but especially in this one, that you... Obviously, they play on that. There are points where you're like, I don't know if they're going to turn on him or if they're not going to. Like, it kind of... Yeah. I don't know.
There's a new character named Tracker, and he has a puppy. And his puppy has a very interesting attack title that's given to him, which I won't say right now. But
it's effective.
The point throughout the movie is that Tracker is basically saying, I will find John Wick for you if you pay me enough money. Mm-hmm. And finally they give him enough money at the end of the movie, and he's willing to go after John Wick. And he sees John Wick save his dog. And so he decides, is this really the bad guy?
It's like, nope.
And he ends up siding with John Wick for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, he's been chasing John Wick and following him everywhere he goes, and he knows exactly where he's going. But he hasn't killed him yet, even though he's had multiple opportunities, just because he wants an awful lot of money.
He wants it to be...
He goes from being very selfish in his thought process to much more altruistic at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think of a good thing yet? The entire movie.
Yeah. I mean, yes, but one specific thing would be it shows a lot more of John Wick's integrity and him showing that he cares about his friends, even if they're not... they've not been in contact as much as he would want them to be. But he shows that he will protect them and anyone that he cares for, no matter what.
Okay, so what's a bad thing about this movie? Narrow it down to what?
Language. Even though there's less than there was in Shazam.
Okay, language. There are, if I remember correctly, 6 cuss words in the movie, which... It's an R-rated movie. 6 cuss words is like nothing.
I think it was 7. Actually.
This was rated R because of the violence.
Yes.
And the blood.
That being said, there is one word translated on the screen in German, and it's incorrectly. It's a cuss word that has written there, but it's actually not a cuss word in German. It's calling someone a pig dog, which...
It's not...
It's mean, but it's not a cuss word.
It's an insult.
It's a crude insult.
Crude.
There are much worse ones.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
So... That's why I'd say there's 6 and not 7, because the word's not actually in the movie, it's just written on the screen. So if you can't read, you don't know anyway.
Fair point.
But I mean, if you're young enough that you can't read, you probably shouldn't be watching it. If you're an adult and you can't read and you're watching this,
there are some other issues.
we can help with reading. I guess
Hooked on phonics worked for me.
Watch movies with subtitles. It helps.
Yeah, Japanese subtitles.
No.
Good. Okay, what do you think?
Bad thing?
Yes, negative thing.
The bad guys really bad, and I think that's.
And he's French.
Oh yeah.
Enough said.
It's very. It's interesting because a lot of times in literature or in movies, you want the bad guy to be bad, but oftentimes you don't want them to be so completely awful that there's nothing redeeming about them. But I would say that character, they're really, the more you get to see him, the more you get to see him interact with other people, there is nothing redeeming, nothing good, nothing beneficial. Like, you really are just rooting against him the entire time because he is
crazy,
awful,
he's insane,
despicable, and yeah,
he's a complete and total jerk.
Okay, so the bad thing I would say is not much of a spoiler because it happens right at the beginning of the movie. But Lance Reddick is the concierge for the Continental in London, and first thing in the movie is he gets murdered in front of Winston. And obviously the actual actor that played him died a few months ago, which was very sad also.
Yeah.
But he's one of the best characters in the first three movies, so the fact that he gets whacked right at the beginning of this one is very disappointing. I understand why, because it sets up what Emily was talking about the bad guy is a really, really bad guy, and you want him to get wasted by the end movie, which
you really
it's not a spoiler.
want
He
him
does.
to lose.
Finally,
there's no option but him getting killed by the end movie because that's really what has to happen. So
yeah,
it's not a spoiler there. You knew it had to happen just from seeing the trailers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lance Reddick died like 3 days before the movie premiered in theaters around the world, so it was extremely sad.
Okay, so as far as the other issues that go on in this movie, obviously lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of violence. To be honest, it's not nearly as bad as most other things as far as how it's depicted, however. Because they go around, they shoot everyone. Okay, bang, bang, bang. Oh, they fall down. Lots of guys get shot in the head. There's sometimes a bit of blood spatter, normally not. There's no gratuitous violence on anything.
Depends on where it is.
In the entire movie.
There's gratuitous violence, not gore.
Okay, he punches a guy in the face and knocks his teeth out once. But it's not like we saw the trailer for Renfield in the theaters while we were watching John Wick. And Renfield is drastically worse.
Oh,
which we haven't seen the movie yet, but
it
the trailer
looks, it's not even like, I don't know, it's unnecessary, like, not even
pointlessly
comic
bloody.
book. It's like beyond that violent and bloody,
it's
gory.
Just,
it's gross.
Let's see how much fake blood we can use throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in John Wick, there's a minimal amount of blood being shown anywhere. There's no one having arms ripped off. There's no heads being blown off. I'm not saying there aren't a few heads that go missing, because there's a few that do.
Well, there are katanas
but
involved.
It's not depicted clearly as showing that's what's happening. And there's no one getting cut in half. There's nothing like that. It's just a lot of gunplay. Occasionally knives.
And bones getting broken
swords.
because of hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, you hear a few bones crunch, which you'd expect that when that type of fight.
Or, you know.
So the violence obviously is high, but there's minimal damage to passerbys, which, considering they're fighting around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, you'd think there'd be a lot. But apparently they have really good aim, even though they have bad aim. I'm not sure how that one works.
It's impressive, though.
But everyone else is oblivious to the fact that there are hundreds of guys chasing after John Wick through the center of Paris. I don't know how that one works either, but they're French.
Really early in the morning, as he's trying to get there, get someplace very quickly.
Trying to get to a spoiler with a spoiler for a spoiler.
Yeah.
Okay, so spoilers aside, we have that. The spiritual aspect of this movie is there is a clear depiction of a Eastern Catholic church, and so it's probably supposed to be a Russian subset.
Russian Orthodox, kind of.
Probably something like that. It's hard to tell. But it's when John Wick goes back to his family and gets readmitted back into the Russian sect, well, Romanian sect of the Assassin's Guild. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because the priest pulls out a shotgun and shoots him when he's right in front of him at the altar, which that's probably not the best thing to have happen in church, but it's a church full of assassins also, so we'll leave that there.
Yeah,
but
questionable.
There is little actual spiritual content else than there are 2 churches featured.
Yeah.
They don't really talk about anything spiritual. They don't talk about God. They don't talk about heaven. They talk about hell, except for like 2 references right at the end of the movie.
Well, it's 3 because there's 2 right at the end of the movie, 1 right in the middle. Before he decides to go confront.
Ah.
Okay, we'll say those are 1. That works.
Anyway.
So there's little there to be upset about. Obviously, the wanton disrespect for human life is a spiritual issue, but that's kind of the point of the movie is they're shooting everyone.
Yeah.
They're assassins. They get paid to not care.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, that has its own issue there. But there's no conscience involved for most of them, so take it as what it is. It's a movie.
Yeah.
There we go. And what other content is there that's negative that you see? I mean, there's a guy that kicks a puppy. He gets paid back for kicking the puppy.
I mean, there's most of the negative content really revolves around the violence of this brand. I mean, the violence is just kind of inherent to the storyline, and as much as I like the core storyline, I personally am not a huge fan of the amount of violence that's in it, so I struggle with that. I personally don't think that I'm going to watch a whole lot of John Wick in the future just because it is so violent, and it's just not something I want to put in my brain. So for me, it's just a violence thing. Else than that, obviously, people turning on each other, people turning on each other for money, people trying to get a lot of money. There's a little bit of crude conversation with the one German guy, right?
Yeah, but he's the one that gets his teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they're in a club.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of inappropriate sexual content in this. I think less than there was in... It's just the
clothing, really. And their, dancing.
Previous.
Yeah, there's not really much. You see worse on TV.
Yeah. But...
in family shows.
Yeah.
So, obviously, violence, yes. Language, slightly. I'd say the biggest issue, though, if you're looking for a deep and engrossing storyline, is that there isn't one. I mean, normally for a storyline, you want to have deep conversation and dialogue.
Yeah.
The things that have made the John Wick movies great is that there isn't any. The conversation is the fight scene. And that's how guys work.
Well,
that's why guys like it.
I love the John Wick movies.
Bell apparently is a guy.
The one of the good things about it is that there is less conversation, but it's clear you get the premise set, you understand what's happening, you see what's happening to John Wick, and you see his response. So there doesn't have to be a lot of conversation because the character is so well developed, and his intention and his response to other people is enough to carry the storyline without a lot of extra dialogue.
Yeah.
The characters portray what's happening pretty well through their facial expressions.
There's lots of faces of horror as they realize what's happening to them. So.
Oh, yeah.
That gets the point across.
As they see Baba Yaga walking up.
There's a lot of alcohol consumption in the series. There's a lot of...
It's mostly for painkiller purposes.
Well,
which makes sense.
And when they know John Wick is coming for them.
Which, once again, is painkiller purposes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, anyhow.
So, there are some issues. There is one scene with smoking in it.
Oh, so bad.
Be aware. You've been warned. Okay, so what is your rating for this movie, Bella? And that is the...
Age?
Yes, the movie rating, not your personal rating movie.
What age do you think is appropriate?
Definitely not younger than 17. By any shape, any way of the imagination at all. Like,
It's definitely rated R. It should be rated R. The issue with rated R in the U.S. is that in Canada, for example, this movie's rated PG-13. So apparently Canadians don't have issues with gun violence.
it's just interesting.
It's confusing.
Yeah,
Very much so.
lots of confusion there.
The Canadians.
Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything yet.
Okay, so I would say 18 at a minimum. Obviously, at that point, kids are going to be adults and they can technically make that call. I would say there are plenty of 18 plus people that are not mature enough to handle movies like this because they can't watch that violence without then taking that into how they behave. So that to me is a big hindrance for anyone to watch it. Just if they cannot separate, this is a story, they're not really doing this to people, and that's not a good thing. Whether or not John Wick's a good guy, it's not good to go through and kill 150 people in the span of a day because you want to get something done.
One day.
It's just if they can't take that moral standard,
Can't separate reality, then
reality
you
from the
watch
movie,
it.
you shouldn't watch something like this.
That being said, John Wick is not a hero. He's definitely an anti-hero.
Very much so.
He was a bad guy, but he's trying to fix the bad guys to make them go away. Because the ultimate goal is not just, I want to be free of what's going on, which it was in the first two movies. It became, we need to fix this problem overall, which to do that is get rid of the entire high table. And he hasn't succeeded in doing that yet.
He's trying, though.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why the character of John Wick is endeared to the audience, is because he was a part of that and realized the error in that and wanted something different and desired to have a regular life, and then continues to strive for that for other people and for himself. So it's just that he goes about achieving that by doing the same thing he did before.
Yeah.
He's much more biased on who he kills, though.
He's basically fighting fire with fire, but he's the biggest fire on the planet as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
They make it very clear in the first one that you don't mess with Baba Yaga because you will die.
Yeah.
And that is proven undoubtedly true with everyone in the movies.
Yeah.
You will not see him coming unless he wants you to see him coming.
Yeah, so radar, no question. It should be radar. But yes, if you're not mature enough to separate things, then definitely don't watch it.
And again, like, I can separate them, but I also feel like I'm probably not going to watch it very often, if ever, again, just because that amount of violence to me is just not something I want to put in my head. So I'm not going to be upset that you watch it, or I'm a little annoyed that you watch it, but that's
I'm
a
an
parent
adult.
thing.
If you have a queasy stomach, don't watch
it.
Yeah.
It's just not something that I can separate the reality from the movie, but I don't feel like it's something I want to put in my head. So there's the aspect of maturity and being able to separate reality from fiction, but also just because you can do that doesn't mean you're going to want to watch that movie.
Yeah. It's most 18-year-olds probably shouldn't watch it, though. You need to have a grasp on reality. So that being said, what is your rating for this movie?
Out of
5. That's how we rate
5?
things.
Okay.
There's 3 of us, so not 5.
I would say like a 3 or 4. Probably a 4. But again,
Ouch.
it's just because I don't particularly like the amount of violence in it. Or the fact that the whole driving force is kind of a very strong lack of value of human life.
Well, technically he has value human life.
Particular humans.
Just not people he doesn't like.
Exactly.
Okay, Bella, what's your rating?
I would say 5. I think the movie is amazing.
Okay, so I would firmly have said a 5 until the last 3 minutes of the movie.
True.
That drops it to a 4.5 because it's not clear what the ending of the movie is. If you've seen it, you understand what it is. There is some dispute as to what the ending is because there's actually 2 different endings. So hopefully the release on disc will have both endings available.
Oh.
Because I think it's clear that there will be a 5th movie.
As do I.
And they've already stated that there will be a TV show called The Continental, and there's another movie spin-off called The Ballerina. But if the high table's not gone, I don't think they can finish the movie. So,
Yeah.
that's my statement. I won't spoil anything else.
Yeah.
But if they'd made it clear, I would say clear 5.
I
Because
think
it's
I
an
agree
amazing
with
movie.
you now.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing fight scenes. Perfectly
Very
well
well
done.
choreographed.
Hitting people with nunchucks is always fun.
And not hurting yourself in the process.
You know, not whacking yourself inside the
He
face.
swings around his neck multiple times. And he loses one nunchuck early in the fight, but he keeps the other one the entire time. You know, goes through like a dozen guns.
Well,
I
he'll,
think it's
like,
more
put
than
it
that.
up like that, like a scarf, and he holds it while he's fighting or shooting or whatever, and then he pulls it off again. And
He's got it around his neck or in his hand while he's running around the room with the gun in his hand, you know, completely emptying the gun, dropping it, you know, switching it hand to hand, and then picking up another gun, running around, shooting people. Repeatedly for 18 minutes straight.
In any movie with Donnie Yen where he's punching people, that's a pretty good movie too.
Definitely.
Can I mention what Donnie Yen's character does in that first scene?
Well, it's not the first one, because
Well,
second
in
one.
the,
First
okay,
fight scene that Donnie Yen's in.
Is that good?
Well, I was going to, but you
Oh, no, you can.
Nope, you did.
Okay, so Donnie Yen's character is blind.
He's self-inflicted blind, though, because of something he had to do for the high table
Yes, so
in order to protect his daughter.
he... In this fight scene, they're in like a big kitchen, and obviously he's blind, he's got a cane, but he's still pretty lethal. So he has these weird things you see him kind of put up on the sides of these cabinets or like stoves and whatnot, and then he hides behind a wall, and the bad guys start coming in, and when they go past the little thing he put up, it dings, it's a doorbell, so he knows where they're at, so he knows where to shoot.
Well, not even where to shoot is so he knows exactly where to smack with his walking stick.
Yeah.
It's
just
impressive.
It was impressive. It was...
It's a crude for
Clever.
echolocation that he's using in order to find the bad guys to shoot them. But at the same time, he's one of the bad guys, so
Yeah, it's...
he's an anti-hero also.
Yeah.
If anything, he's closer to being the hero of the movie than anything else.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it.
So, yeah. Amazing movie, just you need to have discretion watching it and
Definitely.
maturity.
Yeah.
Don't let your kids watch it. Unless your kids are adults. Then they can make the choice themselves.
Yep.
So I think next time we're going to talk about Super Mario Bros.
Which is an excellent movie. I'm very excited to share.
She wants to share spoilers now.
She does.
No, that'll be Nora's job.
Yep. So they'll be with us again for that one next week.
Yeah.
So with that,
Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know if you have seen the movie. Let us know what your favorite scene was. Or maybe your favorite character.
or what you think Trucker's going to do in the next one.
Yeah. And
Or Donnie Yen's character is dead.
there's a lot of ifs at the end of this movie. It was very
There are too many ifs.
British in that way. So, yeah, just let us know your thoughts and comments, questions, and maybe if there's a film that you know is coming up that you'd like us to review, or a film that you know of that we haven't yet reviewed,
Send
let
us
us
movie tickets.
know in the comments, and we will let you, we will try and put that in our on our list, and try and get through it and review it. So, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.